Oh Lord, here we go again. I just dropped 2 tabs and I lost my friends. Oh Lord, here we go again. I just dropped 2 tabs and I lost my friends. I'm like, oh Lord, here we go again.
Hey everyone, Rip City Real Talk. We are back. Craig Moshkow, Anthony Blaylock, your favorite hosts in the podcast world, I'm sure. We took a little longer this time. We wanted to wait for Summer League to end to give a pretty mediocre breakdown of it, I'll be honest. I didn't get to catch as much as I would have liked. It's just the streaming's hard, man. It's hard when you don't have an actual Blazers channel right now that normally plays all that stuff for you. And I caught one on NBA, and they played during the day, so I only got to see some of that because I have a job and all that. But still got to see enough of it. Got to see the box scores, read some of the recaps, get a good idea of some of the highlights of how the team performed. So we're going to discuss that today. We'll talk about Chauncey Billups' coaching goals, as lofty as they might be, at least in our opinion, and we'll talk about that. And that's really all I have as far as an agenda. We'll kind of mention some other major news. I don't want to call it major, but it's major at this time of the year when there's just not a lot of news. That all aside, how are you?
Excellent, man. Just hanging in there and doing everything we can. I didn't get to watch a lot of the Summer League either. Like you said, we typically watch it on YouTube. We watch all our games on YouTube TV or Hulu streaming. So this year's been kind of tough. And I'm still I think it's still anticipation from fans for if Root Sports is going to be able to partner with one of those streaming services. The rumors are that they are trying to do that right now because they understand that that's a huge part of their viewership. So I'm really hoping that happens soon because I can't do cable. So I'll have to figure out a third party solution if I can't stream it off of YouTube.
I definitely cut the cord on the cable side. Went and I think it was Hulu last year, and I think you had YouTube. I think it was on both of them, but I watched on Hulu last year. So agreed. Root Sports needs to figure that out because it's gonna be a problem. I want to go buy season tickets. I've been talking about it for a while. Maybe I'll just bite the bullet and get that done. Just go see the games live and call it good. I mean, I see 10 to 12 games a year anyway. Might as well try to make it official.
Well, and then the other thing is, so right now you and I are big fantasy guys for football, so we're also dialing in on that. So it's like we're all our attention, we work full-time jobs. I have kids. We do fantasy research. There's all this stuff going on. So I feel like August is kind of a lead-up month for everything that's happening right now.
I don't.
But Blazers was
I don't
huge.
have excuses. You're making up excuses. I am dedicated, loyal to all of our fans. So
I'll use excuses. So. What do you have from Summer League? What do you have from notes? And now we're doing it in totality. So what do you have from, all of it? And what was kind of your main takeaways? What did you like, dislike? What do you got there?
So I'll start with the vets. The guys are not on contract that I think not just for Portland, but I think for other teams around the league, they were trying to showcase a bit. You typically don't see guys in the Summer League of this kind of stature out there playing. Most guys, when you get to be 5-10 years in the league, you're either somewhere or you're out probably, right? So I respect these guys coming in and willing to take a summer league spot and try to come in here and prove that they still have something to play. I think both you and me, and frankly, a lot of fans thought that some of this would potentially be potential tryouts for the Blazers in general, and that we brought some of these guys in to see what they could still do and then potentially earn a spot on the team. I don't see that as likely anymore because of how fast we filled up our spots. We only really have the one spot left, and knowing Neil, he's probably going to wait, buyout market, potentially taking a second guy back in a trade to make contracts work if you make a move later. You keep that flexibility with that spot, so I don't see that happening, which, as we'll get into a little bit later, is kind of a bummer to me personally as far as the power forward position goes and some of those other spots. But I'll get right down to it. Two of the guys that I think possibly could have fit our power forward spot was a slightly, I don't want to say better. That's disrespectful. But definitely at this point able to do a little bit more athletically. That's Michael Beasley over Carmelo Anthony. So it's kind of that same role where you're really going to be probably slightly undersized for a power forward, but you're going to come in and your job is just to get buckets. We don't care to play defense. I don't need you to pass the ball, get some rebounds, we'll be happy, but really just go get me 15 points a night. So Michael Beasley is the first guy that I kind of want to chat about. I was a little disappointed in his performance, given how everything's been going with him overseas and coming here and some of the other stuff that we've been hearing about leading up to his Summer League debut. What did you think?
I mean, I really thought that he and Fareed were trying out for the last roster spot that the Blazers had on a vet minimum. It made sense to me. I don't think either one of them stepped up and did anything enough for the Blazers to sign them with confidence that we can play them even in a small role. I just literally thought one of them would step up. I think Beasley made more sense because he does have a lot more versatility to his scoring. He can do a lot more on the offensive end. Fareed is kind of a hustle backup big, and he makes sense as like a tweener, smaller center or small ball center.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I didn't know what to expect from those guys, but I really thought that Michael Beasley was going to come in as veteran presence and really drop the hammer on some of these young kids, and he just didn't do that. And he has had success overseas of scoring a lot of points and being very prolific. So it was kind of interesting to me, and I sort of felt like they failed the tryout or failed the test of making this roster through a summer league. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, so we went 2-3 overall for fans who didn't follow the summer league. We actually started off 2-0, and then things fell apart pretty quickly. But in the two wins, yeah, especially that. So the two wins, ironically, is the two wins that he got. He had 9 points, and both the wins. He had 9 points in the third game, and then went for 14 and 16 in the last two, which is respectable.
Sure.
But again, they didn't play a lot of guys either. He had a slight uptick in minutes, so I think that helped. He also shot more efficiently. But I was honestly hoping that he'd be able to come in there and get at least double-digit points on a nightly basis. But I was expecting 15 a night out of him. I just really thought, exactly like you said, I thought he'd be able to come in there against guys who were not quite as experienced, rookies, whatever, and really be able to put the ball in the bucket, because that's what we brought him in to do. You don't just go out and get a veteran guy who's been in the league for however long he's been in the league and then, expect him to do other things except for score when you brought him in for scoring. So he fouled a lot. He had a decent amount of fouls, especially in the first couple games. I will say this, his range looked better than he's been historically. He hit more threes than I thought he would hit. Doesn't look great to me. His jumper looks a little weird, but it's going in. It was going in at least to start. So that's some takeaways from him. And like you said, with Fareed, he really had to be an energy guy. That's his role. It's always been his role. I mean, the guy, you don't just get nicknamed the Manimal for nothing, right? Like when he first came in the league, he was a monster, like all over the place, running the floor, getting rebounds, put back dunks. That was his jam, pun intended. So again, he didn't quite do it for me either. He did all right rebounding the ball. I mean, which is fine. You're rebounding over kids and rookies for the most part. But I would like to see him score more in the paint. It's weird because summer league it's weird. It has a weird pace to it.
Yes, it does.
It's not obviously a constructed offense. You're not running sets and plays. I mean, you are, but you aren't. Like it's a lot of just running back and forth and sloppy passes, etc. So it's kind of hard to see what he could do in an actual setting. But I just think he looked a little slow to me. He just didn't look like he still had that same juice that he had before. And when you can't really do anything else except just bring energy and get those extra rebounds and things like that, it's going to be hard for him to earn any kind of a spot anywhere. I like him. I thought I liked him back when he was originally drafted in Denver. He was a guy that Portland almost drafted and had on the roster. And I liked him back then. I just think that type of role is going to be tough anymore in the league with the way bigs play for him to come in there and do that consistently. So
they were good. They were good role models and good, I would say, like floor coaches for the young kids. I think that they probably can share some of their experiences because being in and bouncing in and out of the league is really going to show, a guy like Greg Brown and when you're talking about even CJ Ellaby has not done enough to prove that he belongs on an NBA court. So when you hear a guy like Michael Beasley, who has been a prolific scorer in the NBA and still had to go overseas and play in other leagues, you need to come in and put the work in. And I think that's what they were here to do, is they were here to show that you guys you're not just born and bred for this. You need to work for it too. So I do think that helps a little bit. I think the biggest takeaway so far from this was Greg Brown. And I think Greg Brown played really well. I think he made some highlight reel stuff, but he also showcased more from his game than we thought. And so far he looks like a steal from that second round pick. And I'm not just talking about the dunks. I mean, on both ends of the floor, I was seeing flashes of things that I didn't know he had. The question will be, will Chauncey play him early enough in his career, or is it going to be like a Stotts thing where we don't see him for 2 years? He's just sitting on the bench learning in practice. What do you think of that?
He jumped ahead of me a bit, but that's all right. We'll move on to that. I definitely want to address the Greg Brown stuff. So Yeah, I mean, so Greg Brown, he had a lot of splashy plays, and he was very efficient around the rim, which I really like to see. I think he was
Uh-huh.
controlled with his attacks, his dunks. A lot of times, when you're that athletic, you get a little sporadic with trying to do a little too much. But he seemed composed, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Defense was there. He had a couple games where he fouled a little more than I would have liked to see. But any young kid, especially in summer league, is going to foul like that. You're going to have bad fouls when you're trying to do a lot. But he had some nasty looking blocks, and he definitely showed that he's got an understanding that he is big and long and can jump, and he knows how to use it. I mean, obviously things can be perfected, but I do think that that's an extremely positive sign and a lot of good assets to work with. However, I think we already have a ton of that on this roster, and that's where I don't see him getting into the mix too early. Obviously, with Derek Jones, who's another dunk guy. Congratulations, Derek Jones, for being the fourth best dunker in 2K, by the way, at least rating wise. But you have him, you have Nasir Little, who, with all this Greg Brown rah 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 I keep seeing online, I think people start to slowly forget that Nasir Little, you know, is coming into his third year now, and he's kind of that same build. He's athletic, he's big, he's long. His big thing is finishing around the rim. I mean, his defense is a little raw at times last year, which is why he didn't get in the rotation as much as people probably would have liked to see. You see flashes of a guy do something good, and you immediately think, oh, he needs to play more. Oh, Stotts is an idiot for not playing him more. But you also tend to not pay attention to the bad, and he had enough of it to warrant him not playing. But I think next year, that's when I want to see him take the leap. And when I say that, I just don't think he's going to play small forward. I don't. I really think Derek Jones is going to be that guy. In a shooting situation where you need to score, you'll probably slide Schnell into that third, that small forward role
Yeah.
with Anthony and McLemore kind of being your two backup guards at this point.
Okay.
So what that means for Greg, good old Greg Brown at this point is I just think he kind of slides into that backup power forward spot. I think Nasir Little plays a small ball forward. And I think obviously with Zeller playing center, there's just not going to be a lot of room early for Greg Brown. However, this is a team with almost no depth in the big position. We have Zeller. He's our backup big. And unless you count Little as a power forward at this point, Derek Jones, Greg Brown is probably your only. I know. Well, they're both, long, dunky. But he's probably the next closest thing you have to a true power forward at 6'9" with the length and the athleticism that he has.
Sure.
So as soon as a guy like Zeller gets hurt, and I say as soon as he gets hurt because he hasn't played an entire season in his entire career. He's missed decent chunks of time. So when he's your only backup big, I think we'll see Brown come in and play more backup center.
Yeah.
I think that's where you'll get him into the game. Little's also missed a lot of times his first 2 years. He's missed games just with various small injuries, the foot. He's had some other things. So you never know. Right there, he gets hurt. You put in size, and Brown gets to play quicker than we thought. So I do think he gets more involved than people might think he will just because of depth issues. That's where he's going to make his money, is coming in the reserves.
I was going to ask you about that. So, I mean, obviously the starters are going to be Dame, CJ, Norm, Rocco, Nurk, right? That's going to be the starting five. And they are going to play probably really heavy minutes. I don't see Chauncey leaning off of them very much. And I don't see him shaking it up where he just hockey shuffles the lineup and moves a totally different five in. I think he's just going to bring them off in small stints. So you think Ant's going to play a lot. You think Snell and McLemore are going to be you think those two are going to play a little bit. Okay, so let's go through Greg Brown versus Derek Jones.
It's hard not to do when you're talking about both of them.
You posted that thing earlier. So earlier on our Twitter, you posted who you think is going to play the most minutes. And I'm just going to say forward minutes. It doesn't have to be power forward, small forward. Who do you think is going to play the most minutes on this team? Is it going to be Derek Jones, Nasir Little, or Greg Brown? I voted on the poll from my Twitter, and I think I said Nasir Little because I think he's got the most, I'm going to say two-way pop, because that game last year against Milwaukee where he scored 30, I just think Nasir Little looks special. Now, did he do it in small stints? Yes, it was definitely inconsistent. But Derek Jones started for the first quarter of the season last year, and it was really inconsistent too. And Greg Brown, we just drafted as a 19, 20-year-old out of Texas. So he's not going to have a whole lot more experience. In my opinion, I think it should be Nasir Little who gets first crack. That's just what I think.
Well, I imagine the coaches probably feel the same. That's why he didn't play in Summer League. It was originally announced that he would be on the Summer League roster, and he got pulled. I think there's speculation that he was going to be involved in the trade, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's just because they know from what they've seen on film that he's ready to take that year 3 leap and get big chunks of minutes. He doesn't need to be in Summer League because he's just one of the roster now. I mean, You're not putting CJ McCollum in the Summer League. You know what I mean? So,
yes.
Yeah, I think him and Jones play the 3 and the 4. I think you have to put Jones in there because Amp isn't great on defense. Getting better every year, athletic, still a liability. He's not locking any guards down. I mean, Zeller is a good, decent defender, but you run into the same thing you ran into with Cantor. He's probably going to drop a lot. He's not going to be great on the perimeter. You're going to need help defenders with length out there. I mean, that's where guys like Little and Jones are going to come into play. So I think Jones gets in there because of the defense that he offers. I really do. I think you have enough shooters. I mean, we talked about Anthony. McLemore is going to be out there probably playing the backup 2 position, I would think. Or Snell. I don't know. They're both the same thing to me. Snell's a little bit bigger, but I think that's where Jones is going to get his money. He's going to be the guy that can attack the rim on that second unit, try to lock down the Monte Morrises of the world who absolutely destroyed us, the Cameron Paynes of the world, those guys that can come in off the bench and be a problem. You think about playing Indiana, like they're probably going to have TJ Warren off the bench. There's all these guys that come in here. Some of the best teams have those guys that come in off the bench and they're able to produce. All the championship teams have them. So having a guy that can come in there and try to play good defense against the team's best bench guy, their 6th man, we don't have anybody else that can do it outside of Derek Jones. I don't like Derek Jones. I personally don't care for him. I didn't like him last year. I hope that Chauncey can get something else out of him. But he's there, and if he's there, you're going to use him for his one strength that he supposedly brings to the team, and that's going to be the defense. So I think with that being locked in, you don't see a lot of Greg Brown.
And when you're talking about Snell, Greg Brown, Derek Jones, all of them have a 7-foot wingspan. And so, unfortunately, this team is going to be undersized in a lot of ways. And so when you're looking at ways to make up for that on the defensive end, which Chauncey is going to care about the defensive end, something that he's been brought in here to do is to change the offense, but also improve the defense in totality. And we have an undersized lineup at power forward. But if you have Nurkic out there, if you have Zeller out there, your center should be able to hang with anybody. So what he's going to end up doing, I think, is having a lot more either Derek Jones or Nasir Little. I think one of them is going to be coming off the bench and playing a prolific defensive stopper role. I just don't know which one, and I think they're going to have to earn it. I think they're going to have to show through practice, through consistency, and through game performance that they're ready for the opportunity, and they're going to have to play really well. I mean, Chauncey even made comments this week.
Yeah, we'll get to Chauncey's comments in a moment, but that brings me back to Summer League a little bit. That kind of brings me back to why I thought Beasley and Fareed were going to be so important, which is having those big bodies out there to give you some veteran experience. Because Nasir Little 3 years, Derek Jones 5 or 6 years now. I don't know exactly how long he's been in the league, but it hasn't been that long. Anthony's obviously coming into his 4th year, so you just don't have a lot of veteran experience out there, and that's kind of why I was hoping to see some of these guys produce a little bit better to really open up some things. And one of the guys that I loved that I would still I absolutely would love to have on this team after watching him play was Emmanuel Mutier. I really liked what he did in Summer League. I mean, it was very quiet. He scored pretty well, had 14 in a couple games, but he assisted so well. I mean, the passes that he was making, especially in the Summer League setting, I mean, not a lot of turnovers. I don't think he had a game where he got below 8. He might have, but I know he was in double digits a couple times. He looked great passing the ball. He was attacking the rim and kicking out, So when you talk about pairing guys like Anthony Simons or Ben McLemore with guys that can do that, I would love to see Mudiay get that backup role. I know we have no depth at the big position. I've griped about it multiple podcasts now. But out of all the guys in the Summer League that really performed well for me, it was Emmanuel Mudiay. And I hate that we have the guys that we have, and I hate that we went out and got Snell and McLemore because I really would have liked to see somebody like him come in and pair with Anthony, a veteran point guard that would have looked great next to him. And instead, we're going to have to rely on the Littles and the Greg Browns now to come out here and play big minutes because we signed all these other guards in a position I don't really think we needed. So defense is going to obviously be important to Chauncey's comments that we'll get to in a sec, but I don't know. I think that when it comes to guys like Derek Jones and Steeler are having to improve, they're going to have a lot of leeway this year because there's just not a lot of depth at that position outside of them. I mean, they're going to have all the chances in the world to go out there and play, and then they're not going to lose their minutes very easily because there's just no one to lose their minutes to.
Yeah, and it's funny because you talk about a point guard who can drive and kick and can read the defense and make the right pass, right? And that's not something we have a lot of in our guards. We have 3 or 4 combo guards who are really good at finding their own shot and really good at spot up threes. I mean, CJ can drive, but he's not looking to dish or pass to anybody else. He's typically looking to get his own shot. Dame's typically doing the same thing. If he bursts by a defender, he's probably attacking the rim and trying to draw a foul. So I don't know, man. I agree with you. I think backup point guard has been a problem for a long time. We haven't had a facilitator backup point guard who can also play defense, and that's something that Mudiay can provide. The problem is, I think a lot of times you look at the stats and you think, okay, well, Mudiay comes in, he scores you like 6 points, he gives you 4 or 5 assists, he's not doing a ton on the defensive end statistically, but a lot of times those TJ McConnell-style guards can have more impact on a game than just a statistical impact. So I agree with you, and I think that we both feel that backup point guard needs to be addressed. Ant is going to have to make some leaps and bounds this year in ball handling and decision making because that dude, like, we drafted him very highly to be a point guard, and he's not like, you can't just be a spot up shooting guard. It's just it's not going to work for this team construction. So hopefully
not on
can
a bench. No disrespect to Damian Lillard or anything, but
no,
I 100% though. I mean, it's And so when you talk about, I mean, this is all kind of looped in together, and we're kind of bouncing around a little more than I would like. But the point being, when I'm talking about this, is with all these guards and with no true facilitators, no true defensive guards on this team, that's where the bigs are going to be that much more important, and the forwards are going to be that much more important because they're going to have to do a lot more. You're going to have a lot more turnovers because you're going to have a lot of shooters out there. I mean, you're going to have Anthony Simons, Ben McLemore, Tony Snell. They're all going to shoot, and they're going to shoot probably a lot of threes, and that's going to mean a lot of misses and a lot of rebounds, and it's been a problem with this team the last couple of years. So I just hate having such small guys out there because rebounds are going to be a problem. Pushing the floor is going to be a problem.
Yep.
You're going to be probably a slower paced second unit because, I mean, all this talk about like Derek Jones being able to run the floor and Greg, even if Greg Brown gets out there, I mean, yeah, he's making some sweet splashy dunks, but I mean, who's going to get him the ball? Like Anthony Simons looked better. I'll give him that. He improved. We've talked about it multiple times. He made better decisions last year. He's definitely capable of doing it. I just haven't seen it from him. And there's a reason he hasn't got a lot of backup minutes. So
yeah, I'm with you.
I don't know. I just think the forwards and slowing the game down and having that defense is going to be bigger than people think.
Because our centers, the 2 centers are probably some of the best passers on the team. So if you want to use them as a hub on offense, that's fine, but that's not going to come in transition. So then you have 4 or 5 really long wing players who like to run. When you're talking about Derek Jones, you're talking about Greg Brown, Norman Powell likes to run. Yeah, Little likes to run. So those guys can run, but how do you unlock that when your point guards or both your guards in Dame and CJ only play half-court offense? It's a really weird mix, and I feel like there needs to be more of a definitive culture. Now, that part of that comes from Chauncey, and we can talk about the comments here in a minute. But as we transition, he talks about shooting less threes, and I think he means less threes than like the league average or like the analytical people want to shoot. I don't think he means he wants us to stop shooting threes. I just think he wants us to find more efficiency in those threes. So he doesn't want Dame and CJ trying to break down a perimeter defender and then tucking up a desperation three. Is that what you read from those comments?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the comments yet because I want to be the second half of the pod. Okay. We're going a little quicker. So yeah, I mean, to finish up that previous conversation really quick, I want to kind of bring up, I was hoping to segue to it as we talked about it, but we did obviously sign Greg Brown the third to a 3-year contract. So I want you to tell everybody about the contract we signed and why that's somewhat relevant and important to the team going forward.
Yeah. So basically when you sign a second round guy, because they're a second round player, you can sign them for a 2-year deal, but you don't really control any bird rights and you're not giving them enough money to keep them on the team. So what ends up happening is They oftentimes play for 2 years and walk, whatever. So what we did with Greg Brown is we gave him 3 years and we dipped into our TPMLE money, which is just like a little chunk of money that we could use. We dipped into that a little bit and we reduced the amount that we could pay to someone else. And we give that to Greg Brown. And the reason that you give that to him is you control his bird rights and kind of control his incentive to stay with this team. And the $4 million is kind of a big deal for a second round guy, but you're paying him and you're trying to keep him as loyal as you can to this team.
Right. Especially asset wise. I mean, when you talk about assets, that's one of those situations where, especially the next couple of years with money getting harder and harder as Dame and TJ's money goes up and up and up, assuming they're all on the team, you got to be able to keep these guys a little bit longer. If you think that Greg Jones is going to be the answer at the 4, the backup 4 in a few years, then by all means, give him that money. But it definitely ends any potential decent signings going forward. And we already pretty much knew that because we filled up the roster. I still held out hope that there might be a trade that opened up some room, just in the back of my mind. I also pray for millions and millions of dollars to, do whatever I want in life. But
that was something. I think it was Danny Meringue or somebody said basically like instead of signing Zeller to a vet minimum, you could have used that money with the TPMLE and use the full thing to sign someone like JaVale McGee and get a better backup. So it's a catch-22. I think some people wish that we would have done more with that money, but I understand wanting to sign Greg Brown and having him under contract to me is a big.
We're gonna make Greg Jones a thing. Hashtag Greg Jones.
I'm so
Greg
sorry.
Jones.
Like, keeps happening, but it's just their names are both like Brown and Jones, and they're so kind of generic that I keep getting them.
It's tough. Hey, we don't mean generic in a bad way to all those Jones and Browns out there.
Yeah.
But no, I mean it's important. I mean it's done. I mean that basically means your roster is essentially locked. You have another vet min and a biannual that you can kind of go out and throw at a guy if you get a buyout market at this point. But that's why that's important. We knew we were going to sign him obviously anyway. You drafted the guy and you had the rookie contract was going to be a thing, but to go into that third year, keep his bird rights, definitely sounds like they like him a lot. I mean, you're willing to give him extra money to keep him around, so we'll continue to see if he can develop. I really think he's going to get some time this year, just based on injuries. So later in the year, he's a guy to watch. Okay, now before we go into the Chauncey Billups stuff, because that's basically going to be the second half of this pod. We didn't have a lot for you guys this week. We wanted to talk about some of that stuff. The Greg Brown thing, good grief, I'm going to say Greg Jones again. I know I am. But the Greg Brown thing was our major news. I mean, it wasn't major news, but it was an official signing that happened this week. So that's covered. But before we get into the Chauncey Billups stuff, because there's a decent amount to uncover there and how that's going to break down this team, at least in our opinions, I want to get in the spirit of Summer League, my friend, the spirit of Summer League. So I'm going to give you a chance to announce this week's Blazing New Trails Player of the Week. I'm going to give you a chance to guess who I got here. I'm going to give you one clue. And you probably know, you probably heard it by now. But in the spirit of Summer League, what player who played with the Portland Trail Blazers other than Damian Lillard has won the Summer League MVP award?
Other than Damian Lillard, who has
there's only 2 people that have played for the Blazers Summer League team that have won the Summer League MVP in the Summer League history of the Portland Trail Blazers. Damian Lillard and who?
I don't know.
Oof. Well, I'll give you one more hint. He plays the same position as Damian Lillard.
Oh, CJ?
No. I mean, yes, but no.
Anthony Simons?
Absolutely not. He had a good Summer League, but no. We're going back, my friend. Blazing New Trails Player of the Week. 2008 Summer League MVP Jared Bayless.
You're
kidding. Jared Bayless won the 2008
You thought I would
Summer
know
League
that?
MVP. He had 30 points a game. Well, just under 30 points a game in the Summer League. Blazers did not win that, by the way. But he balled mightily.
Yeah.
So Jared Bayless, who most people probably don't remember because a lot of you guys are younger fans who didn't support them back in the olden days. He played with us 2008 to 2010. We did draft him. He did come in. He's bounced all over the place. All over the place. Been on Milwaukee, been on the Sixers for a stint, went to Minnesota for a minute and then was gone. Yeah. Been all over. He's kind of one of those guys like Patty Mills and Mo Williams and all these other little point guards that have come in throughout the years and been behind guys like Andre Miller. But right now, He's no longer in the league. My update, which is not really an update probably anymore. I honestly don't even know if he's still there. I couldn't quite confirm it. But he signed a contract in 2019 with the Szechuan. So I hope I said that right. Szechuan. I think so. There's a Szechuan kitchen near me, and I'm pretty sure it's spelled the same.
Yep.
The Szechuan Blue Whales. That's a team in China. That is why I sent you the GIF of the blue whale earlier.
I had no idea what that was.
I know you didn't. It was a very mischievous, mysterious hint from my plays, a New Trails player. But that's where he's at. He's playing with the Blue Whales in China. A couple guys over there, Lance Stevenson. Been a lot of guys going to China these days, and he's over there balling out at 30-something years old. So good for him. But yeah, I just thought for Summer League this would be a fun one this week since he did the only other Blazer. Bring that to your Blazer trivia knowledge, everybody, to win the Summer League MVP outside of Damian.
I did not know that. I didn't even know Summer League. I didn't know when Summer League officially started and when they started doing MVPs.
I'll be honest with you. I heard it somewhere, I think, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And I did some research, like, wow, that's even cooler. That's a thing. But yep, it's Jared Bayless. There you go. Now you have that knowledge in your head that you will do absolutely nothing with. Also, there's a team called the Blue Whales, and I just think that's awesome. Hats off to China for having the Blue Whales as a basketball team. Dopest mascot I've ever heard of. Congrats. Heck yeah. Cool. So that's that. I know that's everybody's favorite one. I wanted to get it out of the way before we jumped into the Chauncey Billups stuff. You already touched on it because you're jumping way ahead in this podcast. You're killing me here. But you're doing good things, and I want you to take lead with it again. Yep. He's mentioned some comments this week. I want you to take some of those comments, talk about them, and let's see how we feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing came out. Now, we didn't cover this last week with Steve very much. I think it actually he might have came out like a week and a half ago before we recorded the last pod. We had so much to cover with free agency that we didn't get to it. But basically, Chauncey came out and said, I don't want us shooting 53s per game. Like, I'm not really going to be – I don't want to say an analytics guy, but I'm not going to be a guy who just has everything spread out and is trying to shoot 53s. And I think that makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, Chauncey played in an era where offense was about efficiency. It was about getting easy looks. It was about getting guys open on the baseline. It was about putting guys in the dunker spot and dunking. So it wasn't a three-based era for him. And I don't think that the Blazers' best offense should just be Dame trying to ISO some guy on the perimeter and trying to hook up a prayer. I do think that we should have offensive sets, and I do think that at times in the Stotts era, our offense got really stagnant in ISO. We complained about it last year. We said, look, there's just nothing here besides Dame and CJ having to cook and figure something out. And it's great. It works, but when it breaks down in the playoffs, it's ugly. And when you don't have something reliable, it's ugly. And so I agree. I understand what he's trying to say. I think a lot of Blazer fans were like, "What? You don't want us to shoot threes? That's crazy. That's like our best thing." And it's like, well, we're still probably going to be, a top 5 to 7 team in the NBA with the amount of threes that we shoot and the amount of threes that we make. But I think Chauncey wants us to get more efficient threes. Did you read or parse anything different from his comments?
No, I think that's what he wants to do. I don't think it'll happen quite as easily. And here's why. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much a GM and a coach talk to each other. I don't know how much of this goes into roster building, how much they converse, how much of this is Neil saying, no, we're getting these guys. Good luck, Chauncey. You're going to work with them now. Or how much of it is like Chauncey wanting, no, give me these guys. I think I have a plan. I need these types of players. Or how much of it's just both. Regardless of that, here's what I know. I know the Blazers went out and got Ben McLemore and Tony Schnell. And guess what they basically only do? Shoot the three.
Spot up threes.
Anthony Simons last year took 70+% of his attempts from behind the three-point line, shooting, I believe, over 40 he finished. If not, it was really close. So here's a guy that's coming off the bench that you're expecting to be your point guard, as we've already discussed. Passing's getting there. He made decent decisions, but his best attribute was shooting the three. Now, I personally would love to see him attack the rim more. I think he's athletic enough to do it and draw fouls.
Yeah.
Regardless, that's what he does. Look at the Blazers starters. Let's focus on that real quick. Damian Lillard needs no introduction. He's going to shoot threes. He's going to take contested threes. He's never going to change who he is. That's why he's a superstar.
Yeah.
CJ McCollum. Everybody was all, whenever this trade CJ stuff comes up, I mean, people are all for it until we don't do it. Then they try to make excuses why it was okay not to do it. And a lot of the excuses I saw was, he was playing at an all-star level. He was scoring 26 points a game last year before he got hurt. Guess what? he was scoring 26 points a game because he changed his game admittedly and started stepping back and taking more threes instead of long twos because
100%.
he doesn't attack the rim. He doesn't draw fouls. He's not good at it. He's all right at finishing the rim. He's got a good enough handle to get, a position that he likes to get around a guy. And he's got enough touch with the basketball to be able to get down there and do it, but it's not his game. He's not as good as Damian Lillard at finishing around the rim. So his job is dribble, 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 get back and shoot, get open and shoot, floaters, whatever. He added the three-point game. I mean, he's always been an okay three-point shooter for sure, but he added more of them last year. One of the reasons our attempts went up by so much, and he was hitting them, and that's why his points went up. Okay. Now we bring in Robert Covington. Guess what he is? A 3-and-D player. That's why he was brought in. Did you watch him try to drive to the rim last year? It was atrocious. That's not what he does. He started the year off a little slow. He finished pretty good from three, but that's what he does. And that brings me to our last guard, and that's Norman Powell. Guess what he does the best? Shoots threes. Now we know that he can attack. We know that he can draw fouls. He's awesome at doing that. That's kind of why I wanted to get rid of CJ in the first place, is to really just pair him with Dame because they're so different. But his strong suit is shooting threes, corner threes especially. Yeah. All that being said, when Chauncey says something like that, and I agree, I think you want to be more efficient. It's a matter of how you're going to be more efficient. And we have yet to see that. We're going to talk about it. But this roster is built to shoot threes. There's a reason we were one of the league leaders in shooting threes, because everybody that we have shoots threes. We have a lot of ISO scorers. We don't have anybody on that offense that I trust to move that ball around outside of maybe Nurk, ironically. Yep. I mean, it's not like Dame can't get, passes. He had 7 assists a game, but that's because he was kicking out to, guess what, 3-point shooters. CJ can get assists, sure. When the Dame's out, he's getting triple doubles. He's putting up good numbers. But again, kicking out because he dribble, drives, passes back out to an open shooter. When you have 2 ISO scoring guards like that, who's going to continue to attack, the defense gets sucked in on them. They move that ball around. They get out to an open shooter. That's why 3-point shooters have been so important with Dame and CJ over the years, because that's the other way that they attack when they're not sitting there shooting threes.
Yeah.
You built your team around that. So it's going to be really hard for Chauncey, in my opinion, to step away from shooting 53s a game, however you want to put that.
Yeah.
I mean, what are your thoughts on that? How do you think we can improve offensively based on what you've heard from Chauncey? Bench and starters, it's going to really take away from the 3-point shot being the primary option for this team.
I think he wants to have people cutting a lot more, and he wants to have the people who are penetrating or ball handling to look for those cutters more. So what I mean by that is, if you have Nurk handling the ball, the elbow, or if you have Dame penetrating against his defender to try to find a shot, I think Chauncey wants our players to be more selfless and look for cutters on the baseline, because one of the things about Dame and CJ is when they drive, they are not looking to pass. They are looking to score. And I think that what Chauncey's going to do is try to instill in them to try to be pass first guards. I don't think that's 100% going to happen overnight. And I don't think that's going to happen as efficiently or easily as he thinks, because it's hard to teach old dogs new tricks. And these guys have been playing for 8-9 years respectively each. And they've always been trying to get their own because they've had to. They played with guys like Mo and Chief and Myers and all these players who really weren't doing a whole lot as far as like offensively. They could take a spot up 3 if they had to, and Mo cut sometimes, but this team is not a very motion-based hit the cutter when he rim runs type team, and Dame and CJ don't lob pass much. So what I think is going to happen is I think it's going to be a little rocky at first. I think it's going to be a little rough, and I think that they're going to have to work a lot of the kinks out early. I guess my biggest question is, I do think the threes will trend down a little bit if the offense can get efficient. So let's say you have Derek Jones, Greg Brown, Nasir Little, and they're rim running, and Dame starts to learn how to lob a little bit better, or Nurkic is hitting the backdoor cutter. Well, look, man, it's just straight up.
I know.
Well, and here's the thing. Dame has got better every single year at every part of his game, right? Every year he gets, besides defense, but every part of his game gets better every year, right? And his passing has got better too. And last year he hit some lob passes. Can Chauncey teach him and CJ how to be pass first guards? That's really the question, right? Like, is that going to happen, and is that going to work? Or are they going to use Nurk to hit the backdoor cutter more? I don't know.
Who's going to backdoor cut? I mean, the only guy on the team right now that I can see doing any of that, at least out of the starters, is going to be Powell. Yeah, he's the only one that I think can go up, but even he's still 6'3". I mean, it's not like he's going up for dunks. So And his best attribute, in my opinion, since it is 3-point shooting, is drawing a guy out to him and going around him. He did that all the time last year, and that's where he got most of his fouls, because you have to respect his 3-point shot. But that also typically means that he's going to be sitting in that corner waiting for that ball to hit either an open three if he has a look, or to kick in when the guy jumps out at him and draw the foul and attack the rim at that point. So I don't see him going to the rim and having somebody try to pass the ball to him. I mean, now, unless you start seeing this year little and you start seeing Jones play with Dame and CJ Moore, and we don't know. We don't know what the minutes are going to look like there. Injuries become a factor. Guys get moved around. Sure. Then I would love to see it more. And I also think you brought up a really good point. I think you're going to see a lot more of Nurk passing the ball.
I think that's
I think he has to. I think he's honestly, like I said it earlier, I think he's our best passing player on the team. I mean, the guy's got some touch. And there's no doubt that it's one of the biggest attributes for being a center that he brings to the team. So I do think you'll see a lot more screens where they get the ball to Nurk, and then they start moving around, and Nurk's going to try to find that cutter. He did it all the time with Dame last year in a little roll around where he'd hit Dame at the rim, and it was awesome. And if you can start getting more of that designed, and if you can get it to be executed a little bit more, Nurk has to stay on the court for that to happen, then I would love to see it happen. But I just think I still think we're going to be north of, I'm going to just put it out there right now, I still think we're north of 38 3 attempts a game.
Oh, I think
we were
40
42 last year.
I think 40 plus is definitely feasible. Like I said, this is an old dog new tricks team. And then like you already brought up the point. So if you're going to play Snell and you're going to play Anthony Simons and you're going to play Ben McLemore, those three guys shoot spot up threes. That's what they do. Like Ben McLemore's not going to be rim running. It's just not a thing. So unless you're not going to play that dude, I don't know what to tell you, because spot up threes are what he does. And the same thing with Snell. He's not a super high volume guy, but in the sample size that we've seen, he's a pretty good 3-point shooter when he's a spot up person. So, and the other problem is I think Dame and CJ are undersized guards. So when you see a guy penetrate, and I mean, when I'm saying penetrate, I'm talking about Giannis, Ben Simmons, LeBron. Those three guys are so big that when they penetrate the paint, they can pass right over their defender. Dame and CJ can't do that. So they have to really be crafty about the passing that they do. It
has to be designed. I mean, you have to have an idea of where a guy's going to be.
Exactly. So it has to be a design play. So can Chauncey instill that? I think it's going to have some problems early on, but I do think that he'll be able to do it in time. I just hope that we can take advantage of Greg Brown, Derek Jones, and Nasir Little in the minutes that they play. And I hope we can see a really splashy dunk this year. I think it'd be sick. That Greg Brown dunk in Summer League was...
Oh, my gosh. That got national recognition and well-deserved. Blazers are about to have 3 slam dunk champions on their roster. I can tell you right now.
Gosh.
If that fool gets in the slam dunk contest, and I think this one dunk in the Summer League got him into the slam dunk. I'm sorry. Like, he's already been booked. Like, they're like, hey, you're coming down here. We're going to get you. It's done. Like, he's got the call. They made the call right away.
Three-peat. Yeah.
We're going to have 3 players. But absolutely. And that's, like I said, and I've said this a couple times, but Anthony is really going to be, and we'll talk about this more as the season gets closer, but in my opinion, he's going to be the key to this team, especially in the second unit, being able to pass and unlock Jones, Little, Brown, all these guys. I mean, you're going to have a shooter out there with him. So it's really getting to use those other guys who are athletic to really be able to unlock in transition, or even just, drawing a couple guys and making the right pass to get them open and start getting the ball to move around and get a guy just lucky and open at the rim.
I think it's possible.
But that's that. So that brings me to the other part of what Chauncey said, and that's nobody's going to be allowed to not play hard defense. I don't know the actual quote, but it basically means nobody's taking a play off. I mean, it's not optional to play. It's not optional, yeah. Okay. All right, listen. You're saying all the right things, bud. You are. You're coming out. You're selling the car. Okay. This car's got air conditioning and power windows. Sure. It's not optional. I'm not going to give you a car doesn't have a sunroof. I'm sorry. Listen. I'm all about being more accountable. That is great. Stotts, we can both admit, was not great at holding guys accountable, but he also had a superstar out there, and he was doing his best with that superstar to not mess with what he does, because it's just Dame's world, and we're living in it. But okay. So I don't know how people perceive basketball, and I'm by no means an expert on the body. Okay, I'm not. I mean, I'm not. But I'll tell you this much: it's got to take a lot of energy out of you to be the kind of offensive players that Dame and CJ are. I mean, what is it? CJ every year, I don't know if it was last year or not, but every year he leads the league in miles ran, some ridiculous stat. Every single year, he's always like, well, CJ's moved more than anybody else in the entire NBA.
Yeah.
And Dame, obviously, I don't think people understand how much effort it takes to go into some of those deep threes that he takes. That's a lot. That's a lot more than you think, to be able to put that kind of strength in the ball and be that accurate and control your body like that. And the other side of Dame is he's consistently attacking the rim, drawing fouls. He gets beat up. He gets pushed. That takes a lot out of you. That's why, probably outside of just pure skill, they're not great defenders anyway, just skill-wise, footwork, recognition, etc. But also, they don't defend well because they're exerting so much energy on offense, and that's what they're out there to do, that you kind of rely on your teammates to help you. You're not going to play great defense. Your body just doesn't let you do it. So I'm a little concerned. I mean, that's why we wanted to trade CJ forever. So when you have your two stars not being able to go out there and play hard defense, I don't think we're going to see a big change there. What I would love to see is guys like Nurk and, at this point, Norman Powell really step up the defense. Yeah. Powell's already been a good defender. I mean, he's short, but he's long, and he plays good defense. He hustles a lot, but he also got toasted by Denver quite a bit. He made good plays. He also gave up plays. So that's where it's going to be really interesting for me, especially since he's going to be called upon now to pretty much guard the other team's best small forward more often than not.
I definitely agree with you. I definitely think, again, it's going to be really hard to instill these types of values in players overnight that have been coached for almost a decade from another guy, a different voice, who've been used to doing what they do. But here's what I think Chauncey's going to try to do. I think that in film sessions and after games when they're practicing, I think Chauncey's going to try to teach Dame and CJ how to manipulate or kind of be better on the defensive end without giving up too much offense of their energy. The other thing that I think of is, I think if Chauncey believes, and I think he truly believes this, if we are a better, more a stronger defensive presence on the defensive end, then Dame won't have to deploy heroics every single game. I don't think he'll need to score 50 points. So I think that Chauncey sees it as a scale, right? If we're better defensively, Dame and CJ don't have to be heroes on offense. So if we can just get some more stops, you guys won't have to score as much. And the other thing is, if we're moving the ball a lot on offense, that somehow is going to lead to like defensive stops. He was saying getting everybody involved by touching the ball is going to help them be more engaged on the offensive end. That to me is like an old school basketball coach thing. It's probably like an Olympics pop thing. I don't know. But I hope he can do it. And look, we may have liked Stotts at certain times, and we may have agreed with like his principles, and he unlocked Dame and CJ, but we want the Blazers to succeed. We want to win 50 games next year if it's possible. We want Chauncey to be a coach of the year candidate if possible. So like, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I just have a hard time believing that that's going to happen with this small of a lineup, that they're just going to all of a sudden be this defensive team. It's going to take time.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they got better defensively at all. Yeah, the same starting lineup as last year. Stotts or no Stotts. You can change some things schematically, but these guys still got beat up over and over. I mean, CJ got destroyed by Austin Rivers and Monte Morris, for goodness sakes.
Jesus.
I mean, when you start talking about playing against the Devin Bookers and the Donovan Mitchells and the Steph Curry, Klay Thompson combos in late rounds.
Yeah.
No, I don't care how much better Dame and CJ get defensively. It's not going to be enough. They just don't have that in them to be able to play against some of those guys. It's just, I'm sorry, it's not who they are, which is fine, but I just don't see it. So really,
blown by. And then I think when he's talking about defensive intensity, he's talking about like on screens. A lot of times CJ and Dame both die on screens, and then their guard does whatever they want. And guards, the people that are playing against Dame and CJ know that and take advantage of it. So I think that Chauncey's going to have a big task on his hand of getting them better at going over screens or under screens.
I hope he does. I mean, I hope that we do get better. I don't care about the stats. I don't care about what rank you are defensively. I don't care about any of that. Our offense is going to be good enough to keep us in games. It's not going to change.
Yeah.
They weren't. That was never the problem, regardless of people want to say, yeah, we took probably too many threes, but that's because, again, we were built to do so. I still think when you're top 3 in the league in offense, it's about getting those key stops late in games. It's about stopping runs. It's about not letting Monte Morris run past you over and over and Austin Rivers hitting threes in your face, CJ. That's the kind of stuff that you need to change. And that's where I think some of these defensive tweaks will come into play. I don't think, quite frankly, I still think we're going to give up a lot of points. We're going to be bottom half of the league in defense. Sorry, we probably are.
Yeah.
Fans just going to have to accept that. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that, this time next year we're talking about the season like, oh God, Anthony, you were such an idiot. We were fifth in defense. We were so good. I just don't see it. I want to see it come together at the right times. I want to see the communication be there. And I think it'll be better this year because this group of starters is now going to have played with each other a full season instead of having Nurk miss half the year and, Norman Powell come in for half the year, blah, 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 all these other reasons. I think you're going to see it be improved. I just don't think it's going to be what people expect it to be. I just hope that in the right moment that we can give Dame a chance to win a game. When he hits a big shot, we don't go back down and give up another one. You start building up some of these runs in the fourth quarter and you hold them. Those are the kind of things I'm going to be looking for. I'm going to look for the communication there more than anything else. I don't care if Dame and CJ play a lick of defense until the fourth quarter. I just need to see them constantly fight around screens when it matters most in big game situations and not give up these easy buckets that we've seen them give up to easy, or just not easy, but bad teams in the last couple of years. I was going to say easy winning teams that we should beat, but that's kind of where I'm at with it. I just, when he says stuff like that, it is absolutely going to be optional. You're not going to see the defensive hustle that I think people are expecting Chauncey to come out and do. All over social media, it's like, oh, yeah, see, it's a whole new era. Oh, Chauncey's not going to hold. This is such great news. Chill. It's still the same roster, and you didn't add anybody on your bench unless Nasir Little takes a jump. That's going to really come in and improve anything there either. So unless Jones can become this lockdown defender that we all hoped he will be and be able to stop the sixth man on the other side, you're going to see a lot of the same, in my opinion. I think Zeller is a better defender than Cantor, which will help. Yeah. But you're also giving up offense when you don't have a guy like Carmelo Anthony and Cantor out there. I mean, how many putbacks did Cantor get? I mean, how many of those did he do? I mean, he put up points. He made up for a lot of his defense as well by just getting those rebounds and things like that. So unless Zeller can contribute in that same way, it's going to be really interesting to see the lack of offense now on the bench compared to what we had before with the lack of defense. So either way,
we'll see.
It's kind of where I'm at with that.
The one thing this team doesn't lack in is athleticism, and that we are going to have a lot more athleticism than we've had in years past. So when we were talking about that conversation earlier, and we're talking about the dunks and Greg Brown,
fan question.
Jones. Yeah, I actually had a fan question pop up, and I was going to ask it earlier, but that was a good discussion. I wanted to get through it. So I actually had someone, Mike in Arizona, reach out to me this week and asked after the Greg Brown thing, who do you think is going to have the best highlight dunk this year on the Blazers? So, I'm talking the Greg Brown thing is already a highlight dunk. That's already going to be on.
It doesn't count. That's the summer league dunk of the year.
Exactly. So, who's going to have the best dunk? And you can pick anybody.
Regular season. All right. I'm going. This is going to be so lame. Y'all going to be like, oh, really? The only options? I'm going Nurk. I'm sorry. When a big man hammers that ball down, and we saw it last year, I'm sorry. There's something about watching a guy who's as big as him and as angry as him when he goes up to dunk. When he comes down on somebody's face, it shakes the arena. I mean, I think he's still going to have the best dunk. And I hope this year with the change that we're hopefully going to get on offense and more ball movement, all these great, wonderful things I'm promised, that he's going to get a chance to get either a lob or just a really good cutting at the rim and somebody hits him and he goes up on some poor, unsuspecting Jokic and dunks it on Jokic's bald head and just sets the tone. I want him to slam that ball down so hard that he gives the guy a concussion when he hits him in the face with a basketball as it's coming through the net and the guy's staring up at it in awe. So I'm going with Nurk. We have two slam dunk champions on the team. We have the future slam dunk champion in Greg Brown. See? Golly gee, I did it again.
We're going to have to figure that out.
Yeah, I'm going to have to figure that's not good. So that's where I'm at with it. I'm going Nurk. What about you?
I'm rocking with my guy, honestly, and he has been my guy for dunks. I still think that there's some untapped potential this year. I'm going Derrick Jones Jr. I really think the airplane mode is going to be – I think he's going to throw something down this year. I really think he's got a lot to prove. He's in a contract year. He took his option, so he knows he's secure this year, but I think he's got a lot to prove on both ends of the floor. So I think he's going to put something down big, but the main reason I say Derrick Jones too is I just don't think that Greg Brown's going to get enough run to really have a chance unless it's like in some blowout where we got blown out, they got blown out, and he does something crazy.
Now, here's the deal. He gets put in garbage time minutes against garbage time opponents. Hold on. That could be the best chance to get the dunk of the year right there. I mean, that alone is going to unlock the potential.
Yeah, the sleeper would be Nasir Little. I think Nasir Little can dunk better than people think, and I think Nasir could throw something nasty down too. But that's all I had, man. That's all I got.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that covered it. I mean, I hope that, like I said, I hope that some of this stuff comes into fruition. We'll see. It's a long off season. This is kind of going to be the end of it for a while. We won't have probably too many more pods throughout the summer. We're going to hopefully keep giving you guys news comes up. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get in there, but I would expect the pods to get a little bit shorter. We're done with free agency. We're done with the draft. We're done with summer league.
Yep.
Preseason starts. I think it was October 8th.
Yep. So we got
if I remember right, they just announced it today.
Yep.
Or yesterday, recently. So we'll kind of get in touch when we start getting ready for preseason, and we'll do our primer for the year like we did last year, our very first episode, which was super exciting to start this with you. But for now, just keep following us, everybody. We appreciate the subscriptions, the likes on the videos, all that good stuff. We're on the Twitters, we're on the Instagrams, all the things that the kids are on these days. We love to interact. We just got a fan question. We're going to continue to answer those for you if you get on. I don't have a fan of the week that you've been doing this whole fan of the week thing, but I don't have one. Sorry. So no fan of the week, but we appreciate all the support that we get regardless. And we will hopefully be back on. We'll shoot for next Sunday to do a one. We'll see what kind of pops up in Blazers world as things start to kind of calm down. We'll try to continue to give you guys some content, but we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, shout out fan questions. You can DM us on Twitter. We're both available. It's at Talk Rip, so Twitter at Talk Rip. And then we're also really big into YouTube comments. I will answer any YouTube comment that gets asked, even if it's just like a generic question, NBA question, whatever. So hit us up. Other than that, I think we out.
We out. Oh, and a shout out to Bryce Roberts again for the video editing, man. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Bryce.
Bye, guys.
You're the real MVP. Peace.